Welcome to Discovery Watch with John Kaiser.
I'm your host, Jim Goddard. Welcome back to the show, John, and best of the season.
Jim, pleasure to be on the show, and yes, we will make what we can of this canceled Christmas season.
John, why has Forum Energy moved up during the past week?
Forum Energy is a KRO favorite, primarily for the Janus Lake copper project in which Rio Tinto can earn 80% by spending $30 million, and the Love Lake nickel palladium program. However, the company used to be a uranium company, and it still has a portfolio of Athabasca Basin projects on which Forum and its various partners have spent over $40 million since around 2005. And they have one project called Fur Island, which last year they optioned up to 70% to Orano, which is the French nuclear company that used to be called Areva, and it can earn 70% by spending $6 million. And they got started in January of this year with a program, but only got 1,800 meters done before Saskatchewan locked down everything as the COVID-19 panic took off. So they are going back in January of this year with a 6,000 meter program. And while I'm not a optimist about uranium prices, about a week ago there was some article which came out that said that, hey, if we have a Biden administration and it's going to be all about green energy and climate change reduction, let's get excited about nuclear energy, which qualifies as green energy because there are virtually no carbon dioxide emissions from making electricity from nuclear energy, and certainly not from the uranium itself. And a week ago, all the uranium stocks started to levitate, and Forum Energy, which has this Fur Island project, all of a sudden popped from 11 cents, where the company was working on a 10-cent financing, jumped up to 15, 17 cents as everybody rediscovered the old uranium portfolio that it has in the Athabasca Basin. So this is a fairly fortunate development for Forum Energy because it was able to boost its private placement to $1.5 million, 15 million units at a dime, and it'll be heading into 2021 with about $2.4 million in working capital, just under half of that in flow-through. And the only project on which it really has to spend any money is the Love Lake nickel palladium project, which is also in northern Saskatchewan. Now, the uranium hype is a bit unusual. There was also this GAO report, the Government of Accountability branch of the U.S. It finally put out a recommendation that the United States should buy $150 million worth of uranium for its reserve. And the reasoning for it was quite peculiar because even though Canada is next door, a friendly nation that's unlikely to ever end up in a conflict with the United States, there are international agreements which stipulate that uranium can only be sold for peaceful uses. And the United States government, for its Defense Department, needs a uranium stockpile that it plans to use for nuclear weapons. So it has a potential problem importing cheap uranium from all these other parts of the world that supply it, including Canada. So this was developed to enable the American producers of uranium to be able to sell directly to the United States, and it's kind of like a reverse ESG premium. They'll end up being able to get a better price for it because it's going to be potentially used for destructive purposes down the road. Now, I'm a bear on uranium in general because from 2000 onwards, Kazakhstan has emerged as the world's largest supplier of uranium through its in-situ leaching process, and I doubt very much that in terms of environmental abuse, Kazakhstan in situ uranium would qualify high for ESG credits. But it is what has killed the uranium price. It bottomed at $18 a pound in 2016. At the time, long-term contracts for uranium, which is what all the producers really do sell their uranium at, that was still at $33. Spot uranium has since clawed its way back to $30 a pound, but the long-term contract price is still $35 a pound. And even at these levels, it's just not feasible to develop any of these new deposits that have been discovered in the Athabasca Basin. It certainly isn't going to be very profitable for any of these American roll front in situ leach operations. And the production also peaked in 2016, but it has since pulled back. Now, Kazakhstan supplies 42% of all the uranium. Last year it was worth about $3.7 billion. Canada is at 13%, Australia 12%, and Namibia at 10%. And then it rapidly drops down to where in 13th place is the United States with just 0.12% of the supply. So being able to steer that directly into the U.S. stockpile, that will help out those companies, but it will not help out the uranium space in general. We're still dealing with the problem of Fukushima, which led to Germany abandoning nuclear energy in favor of dirty coal power. And of course, Japan itself, of 42 reactors that are still functional, only 5 of them are currently operating, and 24 of the 42 are scheduled for decommissioning. So Japan is not going back to the sort of nuclear fuel consumption that it once had, which means that all these stockpiles that these utilities had built up, they've been coming into the market since 2011, suppressing the price. And one of the big numbers that isn't very clear is how much of this is left before the other nuclear power plants that are still operating in France, elsewhere, China, of course, it keeps bringing more of them on stream. How long before their demand gobbles up the utility stockpile supply and the existing supply? Now, Cameco has taken measures to reduce supply, and that has helped uranium go from $18 a pound to $30. It shut down McArthur River, and it just recently shut down the Cigar Lake operation, not to constrain supply, but because the COVID problem in northern Saskatchewan has become very severe, and they cannot avoid interacting with the surrounding communities. The big issue is the First Nation communities who have been hit very hard. They can't keep Cigar Lake shut down for too long because it has a water problem that they have to control with freezing technology. So they have to stay on it and basically keep it going, or they end up losing production capacity for quite a long time to get the water back out and properly dealt with and be able to produce again. Now, the COVID problem is a significant one. Apparently in a place called Fond du Lac, which is in the western part of the Athabasca Basin, it's really started to rampage there, and it's become a significant problem. Now, Forum Energy has these 3 projects in Saskatchewan, 2 of which are supposed to be drilling in January. So the immediate concern I had, oh boy, are we going to have these programs shut down and miss the good winter drilling season when everything's frozen, easy to move around, you don't need to worry about lakes and bogs and swamps? Well, Rio Tinto has reached an agreement with the local communities that it will not include any of their members in its operations. The Janus Lake Winter Camp is set up. When the ice road is finished, they'll move in the rest of the fuel, but then everything will be fly in and fly out, and there will be no intersection with the First Nations communities. And Orano and Forum are planning something similar for their Fur Island project, where they're going to set up a camp, and they will not use any First Nation workers, because this has become a very serious problem in these First Nation communities who are freaked out by getting infected and not having the hospital capacity or the transport capacity to move people to where there is hospital capacity. And of course, with the big issue probably will end up in Canada too, as it is down here in the United States, the ICU capacity is filling up fast, and in some places has already filled up fast. So for these regions, remote regions, which do not have their own significant hospital capacity, this current 2021 flu season surge in COVID has become a big problem, and companies are fortunate if they can secure permission to move into these areas during the winter season and get exploration programs done.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, is it true that COVID has killed the chance for a big discovery at Oxford Lake by Big Ridge Gold in 2021?
Jim, I found out the depressing news that yes, indeed, that is the case. I had reintroduced Big Ridge Gold and its Oxford Lake project on November 4th to our Discovery Watch audience after giving up on it in January 2018, after the company, which was called Alto Ventures at the time, had to shut down its plans for the January 2018 drill program to look for banded iron formation type gold systems on that 30-kilometer striking land package that they have there, because in November, Kate Kempton had flown into town and persuaded the Bonnie Bee Cree Nation that before they let any exploration take place, there needs to be an archaeological survey done. And since this was so late in the season, Alto just suspended the program, and nothing pretty much happened in the subsequent 2 years. But last year, Mike Bandrowski got involved with Alto and also another company called Empress. And the two companies merged this year. They did a big financing. They're all cashed up. Bandrowski sat down with the Cree Nation and worked out a plan. Okay, we're going to do the archaeological survey, and everybody was on side. We have an agreement on how this all will be done, and they were set to start a drilling program in January. But Manitoba has also been hit really hard, in particular the First Nations communities. Right now, Manitoba only has about 1.2 million people, but of the ICU patients, First Nations are 48%, based on this report that a special outfit puts out on behalf of the First Nations in Manitoba, and of hospitalizations, 35% are First Nations. And this is out of a province that has 1.2 million people, most of whom live in the vicinity of Winnipeg. And here's another scary statistic that they've put out. The median age for First Nations deaths is 64, whereas for the overall population of Manitoba, it is 83. So again, the First Nations in northern Manitoba, they've managed to get the COVID pandemic into their communities. They are dying from it and getting hospitalized at a greater rate. And so in this case, the archaeological survey that was supposed to be done in November, December, it had to be suspended because it doesn't really involve traipsing around the property looking for some old mizzen, some site where a garbage dump that was indicative of a former village setting and possibly sacred burial grounds or something like that. No, it involves sitting down with the elders and probing their memories and basically being a historian, a sort of a geographer historian, where you map out based on the memory of all these people in the community of where were important things done, where did we have our rituals, and then figuring out on the map where those places are, saying, okay, this is going to be off limits to exploration. In the case of the Oxford Lake, one of the targets, the Blue Jay, is actually underwater, so it's unlikely that anything special archaeologically will be in that case. But because of the inability to even sit down with community members who are getting sick, who are sick, and are frightened of having this COVID-19 getting into their communities, Big Ridge Gold Corp decided, okay, we are going to suspend this, and since it's best to do the drilling there in winter, it won't be January 2022 before we really get in there to tackle this project to see if there is a Musselwhite or Meliadine style scale gold system present. So that's a bummer for Discovery Watch audiences and for the KRO bottom fishers. There may be hope that the company makes a new acquisition, but it won't be able to use any excitement from the Oxford Lake drilling program to get a better stock price, to pull in an additional asset at on favorable terms. So for Big Ridge Gold Corp, it has become a victim of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We'll have more from John Kaiser right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Value from success. Growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, are COVID problems going to affect Neo Bay Metals and its plans to drill the James Bay niobium project in January?
Jim, that has been my concern. The company just completed a private placement that raised $11.6 million. I believe it was around 65 cents for a unit, but the stock has been as low as 52 cents. And the money is going to go towards completing a pre-feasibility study, which they hope to have done by mid-2020, but getting in there in January with a drill program to both do more infill drilling, to collect more metallurgical samples, and to assess a higher grade zone that apparently is shallow enough that it could be part of the open pit scenario that was the flagship of the PEA that they completed in October. And the question, though, is does Moosonee, basically the community in which the Moose Cree First Nation reside, does it have a COVID problem? Well, they are very concerned about COVID, but they are right now free of any COVID cases, and they do want to keep it that way. The winter ice road that's usually built all the way to connect Moosonee to the southern part of Ontario, that's being scrapped this year. They want to keep the intersection with the more infectious rest of Ontario at a minimum. But Claude Dufresne and his team from Neo Bay Metals has sat down with them. They have worked out the protocols for doing so. In this case, they are eager to have community members be part of the exploration program that's supposed to start in January. So, based on my latest communications with Claude Dufresne, Niobe Metals will be able to launch its drill program in January of 2021 up there in Moosonee to advance the niobium James Bay project, which is one of the KRO favorites. It's done pretty good this year from, a low of 20 cents, currently around 60 cents. But it is a stock that's going to be one of the future niobium suppliers because this is one of the best deposits outside the ones that are already in production, which include Niobec in Quebec. And of course, nothing compares to the Arasha project of CBMM. Niobium prices have so far been flat. They haven't really rebounded the way other metal prices have. But that's because CBMM had to stockpile material and during the slowdown of this year and is busy feeding it back out. And most of niobium is sold at a long-term contract, which, similar to the uranium situation, is at a higher price than what the spot price tends to be. So Niobe Metals is not going to have the problem of Big Ridge Gold Corp of missing a key exploration season this winter due to COVID.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been speaking with John Kaiser, his website, kaiserresearch.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on Discovery Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at howstreet.com. Discovery Watch is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.